Good evening, friends, and welcome to another edition of Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace. Today is day 30 in the Karen Reed retrial. We're getting close. They're getting close to giving it to the jury. What a day. We had a few experts on the stand, but Dr. Lapasada, he slayed Hank Brennan, in my opinion, and I think Ed agrees with me. It was great to watch. For once, I had fun watching the trial. Today was one of those days. Ed, your thoughts on day 30?
Oh, day 30 was awesome. Another strong and very powerful witness for the defense. So we had two great women of intellect and character come up and decimate Hank. Oh man, it was like this diminutive genius walked up to Hank after his nonsense and just kicked him in the balls.
Yeah, he definitely got a swift kick into the nuts. Let's take a listen to day 30.
Tonight, the trial back on track with a new phase possibly in sight.
The case may be ready to go to the jury Friday, maybe Monday at the latest.
The defense calls its final witness.
My conclusions with respect to the abrasions are that it was inconsistent with contact to the tail light.
Plus, the question remains, what really happened to John O'Keefe?
Did you look at any information that would tell you what the speed of that impact may have been or allegedly was?
Well, it didn't hit him, so it doesn't matter.
Our panel is in on today's testimony. Canton Confidential, the Karen Reed murder trial, starts right now.
There have been 30 days of testimony, and today we learned we're about to enter the final stretch. Good evening, everyone. I'm JC Monahan.
And I'm Glenn Jones. Today, the defense called its final witness, another crash reconstruction expert from ARCCA. But the testimony from a forensic pathologist dominated the day. Let's get right out to our Melody Mendez. Melody, walk us through what happened in court today.
Well, Glenn, as you just mentioned, we heard from Dr. Elizabeth Laposata. She is the former chief medical director for the state of Rhode Island. She served in that position for 12 years. She's now a professor at Brown University. Then, as you mentioned, they heard testimony from an engineer with ARCCA. That's the crash reconstruction firm that was hired initially by the federal government. These two fields, very different, but their two conclusions very much the same. Take a look. The overlying theme of today's two defense witnesses was clear from the start.
Well, it didn't hit him. It did not hit him. Those injuries are patterned injuries from an animal bite.
Dr. Elizabeth Laposata, forensic pathologist and former medical examiner. Dr. Andrew Rentschler, with engineering firm ARCCA.
And those last two statements by Dr. Laposata, devastating.
Oh, that was a 1-2 punch like Mike Tyson, man. She floored Brennan. Down goes Brennan. Down goes Brennan. She had him on the mat. He went for the full 10 and he is out. Okay. And you know what bugs me about this whole thing is to find out later that this prick Brennan hired her for several of his cases.
And he tried to deny it. No?
Yeah, and he tried to deny it, So he fought tooth and nail to keep her from being able to testify to certain things in the case, the dog bite. So they couldn't use the word dog; they got animal. So what's the big deal?
And I want to just ask you, and I'm going to pool the chat as you answer this question. I got to say, when you look at this from like it's just let's put our expertise aside. If we're just a regular, citizen that's watching this trial, I don't care where you reside, and you listen to how the judge, I want to call her lifeguard Bev, obviously, but when you listen to lifeguard Bev and Hank, the way they are being so secretive about this dog bite and that not being able to use the word dog bite, not being able to use the words FBI, the three-letter sin, the FBI, not being able to say certain other things. Doesn't it make you think they're hiding something? Ed, your thoughts on that?
100%. You're not being able to say, the last trial, but that's out. This is all out of the bag already. They tried to cover it up, and I'm sure the jury's picking up on it. We got a bunch of 30-somethings on the jury, and they're sharp. They're techno savvy. They're all about this. They're taking copious notes and they're into what's going on here, and they want more information, right? And when they see things like these constant objections and sustaining, I'm sure it's irking them. I mean, from some of the court reporters that we're hearing here, that the jury is getting pissed off. In fact, it was said that one of the jurors passed a note to one of the court officers who then gave it to the judge. And that required the judge to give a further explanation, because during Dr. Lapasada's testimony, Brennan tried to put in the video of one of the Crash Daddy's crash tests, and that was objected to, and there was a sidebar there. And then lifeguard Bev, she struck the video being used and any questions associated with the video from Brennan. And then that information, the way she instructed the jury, confused the jury. And then the juror asked a written note to the judge about, well, what does that mean? Because this video came in other testimony, so we can't use it. And she had to clarify her instructions, saying, no, the video is still in as evidence, and you could use the previous testimony associated with it. You just can't use anything that from this witness and that video.
And I don't find myself ever agreeing with Judge Bev, but lifeguard Bev said yesterday, I think we lost the jury. I happen to agree with her on that.
I think did she say, I think we lost the jury, or did she say that I believe the jury is getting fed up?
They're getting fed up.
Right.
Essentially, we lost the jury. They're getting fed up. We got to push.
Well, she was trying to blame it on the defense, and it's not the defense. It's her. It's her and Brennan. Okay.
She said to Mr. Jackson today, you can't read those 3 pages from the printout of the transcript of Hank Brennan talking about this very witness right here.
Right, from the trial. But she allowed Brennan to read all of the impeachment materials that he was going to use against her. And
So
that's what I'm
unfair.
saying. What a freaking hypocrite this guy is. He used this woman for several of his cases, and he says he's no longer using her, but he already did. He already used her for several times. So now he's going to try and shred her. Okay.
Sickening.
Yeah.
If I've ever seen. This is a sham. This trial is a sham. And let's listen to the rest of this, and we'll come back. We'll take your questions. This will be a live, interactive live stream with the audience, with us.
Those injuries are patterned injuries from an animal bite.
Dr. Elizabeth Laposata, forensic pathologist and former medical examiner. Dr. Andrew Rentschler with engineering firm ARCCA.
It likely did not occur as a result of contact, specifically with the taillight cover. The injuries that Mr. O'Keefe sustained on his right arm and didn't sustain would be inconsistent with actual interaction with the taillight.
Laposata going injury by injury through the prosecution's theory that John O'Keefe was hit by Reed's SUV.
Is the laceration to Mr. O'Keefe's upper eyelid that we just looked at, is that consistent in your opinion with a strike from that area of the vehicle if that vehicle were traveling in reverse at, say, 20 plus miles per hour?
No, that rounded, thick area would not cause that skin defect.
Multiple times, Dr. Laposata telling the jury John O'Keefe died from brain injuries and blunt force trauma to the head, but said those injuries were not caused by falling on grassy or dirt ground, even if frozen, as the prosecution is contending.
Would falling backward onto that dirt, hard or not, would that cause the patterned injury that you see, that we just saw in Exhibit 160?
No.
She cited hemorrhaging in O'Keefe's organs as being signs of hypothermia, but also said it could have been
Over 30,000 compressions.
Finally, the most debated part of her testimony.
Do you have an opinion as to whether or not the wounds that you see, the patterned injury that you see on Mr. O'Keefe's right arm is consistent with an animal bite or claw marks?
Yes, it is.
Patterned injuries on his right arm, do they correspond to injuries that could have been produced by irregular fractured plastic pieces impacting his arm?
No, not at all.
Why do you say that?
First of all, those injuries are patterned injuries from an animal bite. We have the canines, we have the incisors.
All right, so I'm going to strike that
And let's see you at sidebar.
And new
Immediately, I'm going to strike that, and we're going to see you at sidebar. Someone asked Ed in the live chat if those sidebar conversations are recorded or put in to the record by the court reporter. I don't believe they are.
Well, yeah,
We don't see her doing any dictating.
usually sidebars are though.
Okay.
She doesn't want it in open court. She doesn't want them objecting, saying, I'm objecting for this reason or that reason. So that's why she has the sidebar. And then I think that's where they do their documentation for appellate reasons.
Right. But what I was saying is it's not open to the jury, obviously.
No, they're not supposed to hear it.
Correct. Okay.
Right.
Very good.
Mhm.
Devastating testimony today. She crushed the prosecution's theory on all day long, and twice on Sunday.
Exactly. Between yesterday, I mean, it's been several devastating witnesses over the last couple of days of testimony for the defense, and they're crushing Brennan. Okay. No reasonable person looking at the totality of the evidence here, the scientific and the medical evidence, should be able to walk away saying that John O'Keefe was still hit by this SUV. Again, the key word here being reasonable.
Right. Yeah. Let's listen, and we'll come right back to the live audience.
finally the most debated part of her testimony.
Do you have an opinion as to whether or not the wounds that you see, the patterned injury that you see on Mr. O'Keefe's right arm is consistent with an animal bite or claw marks?
Yes, it is, very much.
Lapasada stating the injuries to O'Keefe's arm were clearly from an animal's bite while he was still alive.
Do Mr. O'Keefe's pattern injuries on his right arm, do they correspond to injuries that could have been produced by irregular fractured plastic pieces impacting his arm?
No, not at all.
Why do you say that?
First of all, those injuries are patterned injuries from an animal bite. We have the canines, we have the incisors.
All right, so I'm going to strike that, and let's see you at sidebar.
And new information to this trial, her testimony revealed a special dissection of John O'Keefe's leg was done to look for injuries from a bumper. None were found. And x-rays to his arm revealed.
No, the bones were.
Now, this is the first time we're hearing about any dissection to Police Officer John O'Keefe's leg and x-rays taken, because we did hear Dr. Welcher, right?
Yes, and we heard Wrenchler say there was no x-rays, and I don't know where he got that, because guess what, folks? The x-rays are property of the Commonwealth. So who at the Commonwealth had the x-rays? Did the prosecutor's office have these x-rays and they were holding exculpatory evidence from the defense team? Because shouldn't Lifeguard Bev have grave concerns about violations of discovery with the x-rays? Because now all of a sudden, after almost the end of the second trial, the x-rays are produced?
Yeah.
Are you freaking kidding me? Are you kidding me?
As we heard in My Cousin Vinny, the prosecution has to give up all of their evidence to the defense. They have to give their discovery. And that had to have been in the discovery, because this is part of the medical examiner's office. This is what they do. They x-ray bodies. And we saw that in September 11th when we were taking in remains from the at ground zero. If a partial set of remains came in, where did it go? It went straight to x-ray.
Mm-hmm.
We had something from the top half. Everything was x-rayed.
And no hairline fractures, Dr. Welcher. No hairline fractures. Okay. Now, yeah, this is total bullshit that these x-rays are just coming out now. And to me, it seems like there's a Brady violation here. And, and nobody's saying anything about it. The judge isn't saying anything. The prosecution isn't saying, and even the defense isn't saying anything about, they must have had a series of motions and sidebars that were not captured about this. But yeah, what the hell's going on here? How did they just surface in the last minute with the last two witnesses?
Why didn't we hear about it in the first trial?
Exactly.
So there's a lot of things that make you go, but here there's a lot of things that make you say corruption at its highest level. And Hank Brennan has proven that he is not a person of good stature. You know,
No, he's got no moral character. He's got no ethics. He's a punk. With a law degree. And I hope he gets disbarred, to be quite honest with you. Did you know, in an episode or so ago, I did talk about how the doctors, and again, trigger alert, okay, they, for all intents and purposes, fillet the body to peel back the skin to get to the muscles, the ligaments, the tendons, look at those, and then sometimes they go even further into those tissues and get to the skeletal remains to check them physically with their own eyes, independent of x-rays. But in this case, as we find out, x-rays were done, and there's nothing for the whole right arm from the shoulder all the way down to the digits of the fingers. No broken bones, no hairline fractures. Then they did the same thing from the pelvis all the way down to the ankles and the toes. Nothing. Okay. And Jackson has the goods. Okay. So they can't hide it now, and it's been entered into evidence. So I can't wait to see what Wrenchler is going to say on rebuttal. Okay.
Absolutely. Ed, look at our live audience. MSM Liars says there's no soft tissue injuries to the arm. That's very
right.
telling.
That's
You're
right.
hitting at a
Bruising,
car.
no bruising.
What is this? A 6,000-pound Lexus vehicle going 24 miles per hour in reverse is alleged to have hit police officer John O'Keefe, and you not one broken bone, none of the soft tissue injuries that would be indicative of a vehicle, pedestrian vehicle strike. And you have Dr. Scortibello, a very well regarded medical examiner, who said there is no indication that there's a vehicle strike striking a pedestrian. And what did Hank do? He basically ghosted her. It was like she didn't even exist anymore.
Yeah.
And they brought her on as an expert witness.
No dislocation of the shoulder, no dislocation of the elbow, no dislocation of any of the joints. Okay.
Right.
No collarbone fractures, no rib fractures other than what was caused by the automated CPR device that was doing chest compressions. Okay. Plus, now we also learned that the chest compression device can cause internal injuries to the organs underneath it that could mimic signs of hypothermia.
Bingo. Yeah. We heard so much today. There was so much information, but those x-rays, when Alan Jackson unraveled those and showed them in open court, that was compelling. I mean, that if you were on the fence about this, if you listened closely and watched closely today in court, in open court, and when you see the defense roll out and show to the great doctor the x-rays, and she breaks down the x-rays just as you just did now, Ed, I don't know how you could, think that the prosecution, what they're presenting to us, is legitimate.
Like I said, this is Commonwealth property. This is Commonwealth property, those x-rays. So
Right.
Brennan had to have had them. So how does Brennan look to the jury?
Right.
What is the jury thinking about Brennan? He hid these? He hid these? His own witness said that they didn't have any x-rays, that the medical examiner's office didn't do any x-rays.
That was
Right.
Dr. Welcher and Shannon Burgess. That's that 1-2 punch from Aperture. They were great.
Mhm,
You think? Yeah, it's just amazing. I can't wait to hear what the defense is going to come up with tomorrow as it pertains to these x-rays, and also just so much. There's just so much to unpack.
You see how lifeguard Bev will not let them get in their alternative theory of how this occurred inside the house when she slammed on the brakes from the real estate photographs of the interior of the garage. Okay. So she wasn't having any of that. She wasn't even letting any of that in. Okay. And you could see why Brennan fought tooth and nail to keep this woman from testifying, Dr. Lapasada, from testifying, because he knew how devastating she was going to be.
Right. And this is just a small piece. I just want to play this because this was a funny moment. There was many funny moments as she snapped back at Hank Brennan in court. She snapped back at him about the time. she snapped back about his analogy of the brain relating
tofu.
to tofu, right?
Mhm.
But this was one where Hank was attacking her personally, going after her record as a medical examiner as it pertains to her job.
These were epic failures.
I-
Epic failures.
I love what she says here because she slips in a Ed curse word on the record.
Printed in the newspaper. We looked up all the phone records and provided it to the newspapers and showed that nobody called me to go. I would have gone if I needed to. I had my investigator there. It was just bullshit. No, it was.
Because it was bullshit.
Everything that guy just said is bullshit.
I love it.
It was just bullshit. No, it had my investigator there. It was just bullshit. No,
I love to hear that woman say that. That really, I mean, I was driving in my car when I heard that. I was on my way home from the World Trade Center and I was watching it back on the replay. And I just was busting out laughing. I was at a red light. The woman next to me looked at me like I was crazy.
You know the jury. I know the juror. If I was there, I wish I was there to see this, but I've seen it in other cases. I know the jury really appreciated her doing that. All right, because it humanized her to the jury. She's she's not just a brain. She's not just a doctor.
Big time, big time. I agree with you on that wholeheartedly. Let us know what you think in the chat. Was she able to connect there with the jury as she did in? I believe 99% of her testimony today, she was connecting with that jury. But boy, that was really high impact. Hey, one of our friends, someone who we came across tonight, and we really kind of love what he did tonight. He put together a video. Vince, the lawyer, the Loophole lawyer, he put up a 20-minute video. I'll link it in the description. But this is like a kind of like a compilation of the good doctor today, Dr. Lapasada, giving it back to Hank. And he did it so well, and he did it with very little commentary. If you're not following him yet, go and follow him because he's putting out great content as it pertains to the Karen Reed case. I looked at some of his stuff, but let's take a listen in. He did a good job with this, so kudos to him.
A brain is very. Do you agree that a brain is very soft, consistent with, for example, tofu?
Oh, gross. It is soft.
Is it that soft? Is that the texture of it?
Well, it depends on what kind of tofu you have.
Okay. When you were doing differential diagnosis, did you look at any information that would tell you what the speed of that impact may have been or allegedly was?
Well, it didn't hit him, so it doesn't matter.
Good afternoon, Dr. Lapasada.
6 minutes till the afternoon.
Were the photos in Mr. O'Keefe's case useful in coming to opinions and conclusion concerning his injuries altogether?
Yes.
What about the injuries to his right arm?
Yes, those photographs are very important to understand those injuries.
On the stand is Dr. Laposata, and she's an expert retained by the defense, and she's testifying whether the injuries John O'Keefe sustained can be caused by an automobile.
Do you believe that there is a patterned injury on Mr. O'Keefe's right arm?
Yes, there is a pattern injury there.
Have you ever seen in your experience, either being taught or teaching, patterned injuries as they relate to animal wounds generally?
Oh, absolutely. Very common.
Do animal wounds include both claws and teeth, dentin?
Yes.
So bite marks and claw marks might be two different types of patterned wounds that you may see in your evaluation, just in general?
Correct, because when an animal approaches the body, there may be damage from the claws and also from the mouth.
Do you expect to see punctate wounds as well as linear abrasions?
Yes.
Do you expect to see certain bite patterns as well?
Yes.
What types of injuries do animals produce on the skin of human beings?
Injuries from their claws, where you get parallel scrapes of the skin from the claws applied to the skin, or you can see a pattern from the jaw configuration of the animal canines. So there's two canines on either side that make.
And I love the way she broke this down in layman's terms so everybody could understand it. Yes, people in the chat are commenting on the breathing. She was asked by the lifeguard Bev, to pull the microphone right up in her face. And this particular boom mic right here, when it's in your face, it'll capture your breathing. It did it with Dr. Wolf, Crash Daddy. It'll do it with anybody that gets up on that stand. So it's not that she's purposely breathing heavy into the microphone, but she's kind of right up on it. So you got to cut her a break. And again, it's not just her. We saw it yesterday with Dr. Wolf. But Ed, I love the way she explained this in layman's terms, because a lot of doctors can get up, especially someone with her qualifications, can get up there and really lose the jury as it pertains to explaining these dog bites and marks and so forth, right?
Well, anything technically medical, like a neurosurgeon from Florida can get deep into the minutia of his neurosurgery, and he could lose a jury like that, starting using the medical terms and so forth.
Yeah, someone said in the chat, just like Welcher did. Yeah, absolutely. Let's listen to a little bit more of this. And again, Kristen, if you could link it in the description. Vince, the lawyer, the Loophole lawyer, a great YouTube channel. I encourage you guys to go and check it out.
Paired marks, and that would be called a pattern injury. So it makes parallel sort of gouges. The other thing you see in a animal bite is you see not only the canines that come out, but depending on how the jaw is applied to the body, you can have little dot-like imprints in sort of a U-shaped pattern, which are from the incisors. So you look for punctures, you look for paired gouges, which would be the canines, and then you look for arced patterns of little dots, which can be the application of the incisors of an animal bite.
What is an incised wound?
An incised wound is a wound due to cutting from a sharp object.
Would you expect to see incised wounds from an animal bite or claw marks?
No, they don't cause, they're not like knife wounds. They cause more of a scraping injury.
Were you able to determine?
Hey, Ed, I wanted to ask you quickly, because some of the people in the chat are asking. I know you worked in the medical examiner's office. Obviously, you didn't conduct autopsies. You were in the forensic DNA lab, but you were a crime scene investigator for a long time. You sat in on many autopsies, as did I. Was there anything that the good doctor here said today that perhaps you didn't agree with, or was she on point with everything, Ed?
Oh, no, she was spot on. And, I wasn't just in the DNA lab and the director of forensic training. I was also on the special operations victim identification team. And so I did identifications of human remains as a part of an all hands-on approach with DNA, dental, anthropology. I handled the fingerprints and trying to obtain fingerprints from decedent finger parts or footwear parts, things that were decomped, or skin slippage and things of that nature. So, yeah, no, I've attended numerous autopsies, and no, I taught led the death investigation school. So we had all of these things in our training. We had how to identify wounds and weapons, right? Wounds and weapons. Here's the wound, what caused it? Okay. Those types of training things that we did in our training. So yeah, she's spot on with everything she testified to, and she knows it. I mean, she's a cool, collected individual. She's got her faculties about her, and she nailed it. She hit a home run, guys.
What I really loved is that she didn't lose her cool. She stayed professional. She stayed calm, cool, and collective. She was, no matter what he threw at her, he didn't hook her. He was not able to hook her. Hey, I just wanted to highlight this message from Tats. Thank you. It's good to see you. She's got a YouTube channel and a TikTok channel, and comes from a justice background. So one day we'll get together with her and maybe do a video. She's been covering this case very strongly. I watched her the other night. Ed, what do you got? And listen, I apologize for short selling you there. I didn't realize it. So thanks for clarifying that, Ed.
Oh yeah, I did a lot of separate and apart from that, I worked on a lot of projects with others at the medical examiner's office that put together papers, peer-reviewed papers that we presented at the American Academy of Forensic Science on how to obtain fingerprints information from badly decomped bodies and so forth. LJ, she says, tears, Ed, DMORT, for those of you who don't know what that is, that's Disaster Mortuary Assistance Team from the federal government, was also on the ground at Ground Zero. Yes, they were with me at the Staten Island landfill. I had members of DMORT that were forensic odontologists and anthropologists that worked with me when our sifting teams would recover what they felt were human remains. They would bring it to us, and we would document it and determine whether these were animal or human. And if they were teeth, then the odontologist would look at them and classify them. If they were bones, then the anthropologist would classify them. We document all of that stuff and then package it up, label it, photograph it, and then put it in our refrigerators. And every day, twice a day, we'd have a runner take these things to the morgue in Manhattan.
Wow.
So if you were there, if you were part of DMORT, LJ, or you know people that were part of DMORT, I hope they're getting their World Trade Center health checked.
I just went today. I sent you pictures. I was at the World Trade Center health screening. It was there. I was there for almost 2.5 hours. They do a comprehensive check. They try to identify any issues that you have as it pertains to breathing, vision, hearing, the lung capacity tests they do. They send you out for x-rays if need be, and it's all covered under the federal World Trade Center health program. So whether you have insurance or you don't have insurance, the federal government pays for everything, including drugs that need to be prescribed to you for these certified conditions. So if you are down there, or a teacher, or lived in that down in the area, make sure you go and get a screening.
You know, I was asked earlier today about the lack of dog canine DNA on John O'Keefe's sleeve in where the bite marks would be. How come there wasn't any there? And then I was asked a specific question by one of our subscribers asking, could they have used chemicals on there? And could they have cleaned it or washed it? And I don't think they could have washed it because the blood remained on the clothing. Well, there's several ways to destroy that type of forensic evidence. Extreme heat. Remember, they had the clothing for a long time before it got brought to the laboratory. And so they had access to the clothing for a long time. Now, they said they let it dry on the ground at the prosecutor's office on top of paper, which was on the floor for 6 days, if you can believe that, because there's no doctor.
Is that proper to do that, Ed?
Not like that, no. The clothing should have been picked up at the medical, I'm sorry, in this case, the emergency room, and then delivered directly to the forensic lab, where they would remove the clothing and put them in specialized drying chambers in the laboratory. They didn't do that in this case because Proctor and Sergeant Uri took control of the clothing from the emergency room. Anyhow, so they had it in that room, wherever it was, that many people had access to. They could have pumped up the heat in that room in an effort to dry the clothing. Now, extreme heat temperatures could destroy the genetic markers that you'd be looking for in DNA. In addition, okay, somebody asked, well, what other way could they have destroyed potential DNA without being detectable, such as, using a strong oxidizing chemical like hypochlorite, which is bleach, or hydrogen peroxide in like 40 volume, 30 volume, thereabouts. Even 3% hydrogen peroxide could destroy DNA if exposed to it. But another simple technique that you could use to destroy it without any evidence that it was done, UV. So if you have UV lights and you expose the clothing to long periods of UV light, you can then destroy the genetic markers that are there without any chemical residues or evidence that it was used on the material.
Fascinating. We always learn new stuff from you, Ed, and we thank you for that knowledge. I don't think you can get really this type of forensic detailed explanation on any other channel, at least that I know of. If you do know of one, let us know. We'd like to go and check it out. But Ed Wallace, again, he has just so much knowledge as it pertains to evidence collection, crime scene evidence preservation, and so forth. Ed, I want to go to the chat right after this. Kristen and so many other people in the chat are saying, yes, Ed, you teach us so much. And it is something that helps regular lay people understand what's going on and how this should have been done. Like, we get from you, Ed, the proper ways, the proper techniques. When you look at what the Canton Police and the Massachusetts State Police did here, it's the polar opposite of what should have been done.
Oh, 100%.
In any murder investigation. Night after night, we talk about this stuff, but it's just amazing that YouTube takes, when we do these educational live streams, if we show John O'Keefe's arms, we show anything that's got to do with, they automatically demonetize the video in its entirety. For a 30-second or a minute blurb of what we show, and I refuse to take it off the screen. I refuse to bleep it out. I refuse to not show it, because if you're just talking about it and we're not able to show it while we're talking, then what's the sense in it all? What do you got highlight there, Ed?
Well, Lisa McCormick, fine Scottish name. Okay. She says, being in plastic destroys evidence. I believe it gets hot and sitting in the plastic. Well, the thing about the plastic is it doesn't breathe. So once you put a wet item that has not fully dried in plastic that may contain DNA material, what ends up typically happening is opportunistic fungus, mold, and bacteria will start to grow inside on the clothing in the plastic bag, because it doesn't breathe. Now, yes, the clothing was wet, so you have to understand that whatever DNA type materials were on the clothing before it was wet are now being diluted by, in this case, the moisture from the snow, the wetness that was obtained from the snow and precipitation that evening and being out on the snow.
Does that same concept apply to putting blood in red Solo cups from the snow?
Well, yeah. The blood was frozen onto the snow at that point, and so when it's frozen, leave it frozen. Okay, the cups they should have been immediately swabbed when they got back to the police station. Well, first of all, they should have never put it in the red Solo cup. Okay, and they should have sent somebody back to the police station, pick up the appropriate materials to collect it properly, and then bring it back and store it properly. But no, they didn't do that. They put it in here. So they kept it in here instead of, when they got back to the police station, swabbing it and then transferring the blood from the snow to the swab and packaging the swab. No, they didn't do that. So they had their blood slushy.
Yeah, unbelievable. Larissa Harris, thank you for the 10. She says John O'Keefe's clothes not turned over to CSI for 3 weeks. Yuri said on the stand he laid John O'Keefe's clothing, we just talked about that, on parchment paper to dry. Ed just explained that, and I know that people come in on different times while we're playing these videos, while we're doing the lives. But yeah, it's just sickening to hear it. And just watching the reactions from Ed as this stuff was unfolding, you could just tell by the look on his face and how angry he got. Let's listen to a little piece, and then we'll come right to the live audience.
Pathologist taking the stand again today in the Karen Reed retrial. Dr. Elizabeth Laposata is testifying about John O'Keefe's injuries, but the judge is not allowing her to testify about whether any of those injuries were caused by dog bites. WBZ's Penny Commit has the latest from the courthouse in Dedham.
Brain injuries and skull fractures due to blunt force trauma of the head.
That's how Dr. Elizabeth Lapasada says John O'Keefe ultimately died in 2022, not from being left in the snow.
No, the body did not have any hypothermia.
The former Rhode Island medical examiner was back on the stand this morning and contradicted the prosecution's theory that John O'Keefe hit his head on the ground after a collision with Karen Reed's car, testifying that the victim's head wounds were from something else.
Mr. O'Keefe went back onto some object that had some sort of ridge to it to make that horizontal tear in the skin, and also because you would not have those discrete vertical scraping of the skin. You would tend to, if you fell back on grass.
Karen Reed taking.
That was, again, her explaining that falling on the front lawn, and Hank Brennan, in this stupid fashion, was asking her if she examined what was underneath the grass on the front lawn of 34 Fairview. But she was clear and concise about her description of his injuries could not have been sustained from a car accident. It had to have been something else. We heard it from two doctors, Dr. Scordi-Bello. I keep going back to it, but her and Scordi-Bello, the combination of the two of them is a 1-2 knockout punch.
And you're going to hear it from the doctor from Crash Daddy number 2 tomorrow. He's going to get it because that's what his expertise is in. All right. We heard from Crash Daddy number 1 that the injuries to the arm could not have been made by the taillight. Okay. I have a funny feeling something is brewing with Brennan, and that we may see a motion out of the blue in the next day or two for a prosecution mistrial.
I would be, everything is there. The sky is falling. The sky has fallen. It's not falling. It's fallen. The sky has fallen. But he doesn't seem like the type that is going to bow out of this thing. And Bev, it just continues on with her charade, with ruling on all the. It almost seemed like today, and let us know in the chat how you feel about this. It almost seemed like today that Hank Brennan was actually puppeting, like he almost had. It was like a ventriloquist. He had his arm up Bev's back, and anything that he was asking for, she was just doing. And it was so clear today. Crispy Treat, good to see you. Thank you for joining. Let us know what you think in the live chat. That's the way I saw it.
To give Bev, Bev did not allow him at least 2 impeachment avenues to go down. She only allowed 2 of the 4 that he wanted. And, it was an epic failure, those impeachment attempts, that he was going to use the crash and the fire, and then a political beef they had with the new incoming director of medicine or was a medical director at the state of Rhode Island. Yeah. Also, the way he posed the information to the judge was that she had thousands of bodies laying around the autopsy, suites that hadn't had autopsies, and that's not what they were complaining about. She had established a quality assurance, quality control program, and she wanted to personally review all autopsy reports before they went out.
Right.
And so she was reviewing everybody's autopsies, and she triaged them, and she ranked them, and she did the most urgent ones first, and then the lesser ones to the bottom. And that took time because she's only one person.
Yeah, absolutely. And she testified about it. I want to thank all the new members and everyone that's newly subscribed, and folks who have been here a long time, and all the moderators and the replay viewers. We love our replay viewers. If you're new here and you just stumbled across us in the last 30 or so days, let us know that by saying I'm new and where you're from. We always like to say hello and acknowledge our live audience. Let's listen to the rest of this, and we'll come right back to the live questions.
Something else.
Mr. O'Keefe went back onto some object that had some sort of ridge to it to make that horizontal tear in the skin, and also because you would not have those discrete vertical scraping of the skin. You would tend to, if you fell back on grass.
Karen Reed taking a different route into the courthouse today, bypassing her supporters before a contentious meeting with the judge without the jury present.
Those injuries on John O'Keefe's arm are from a dog, period, full stop. Anything less than presenting that to the jury at this point would be to perpetrate an intentional fraud on this jury.
The judge,
I freaking love that. To perpetuate a fraud on this jury. I mean, that was a powerful statement. Powerful.
Well, I mean, Brennan misrepresented evidence yesterday to the jury, and he still hasn't been chastised or spanked by the judge. Okay, and her weak ass instructions to the jury isn't going to cut it. Now she says she's going to revisit this issue when they get towards the closing arguments. But still, you know, this thing should have been handled immediately. And I think again, it's just more errors for appeal should, God forbid, there be a conviction, which I don't think there's going to be. But that said,
those injuries on John O'Keefe's arm are from a dog, period, full stop. Anything less than presenting that to the jury at this point would be to perpetrate an intentional fraud on this jury.
The judge ruling that Dr. Lapasada could only suggest O'Keefe's arm injuries were from an animal, but not from a dog specifically, resulting in several sidebars throughout the morning and parts of the doctor's testimony being struck from the record.
Do you have an opinion as to whether or not the wounds that you see, the patterned injury that you see on Mr. O'Keefe's right arm is consistent with an animal bite or claw marks?
Yes, it is, very much.
We expect the defense's next and final witness to be Dr. Andrew Rentschler. He's a biomechanical engineer who works with Dr. Wolf at ARCCA during the last trial.
How many people in the chat are a little disappointed that we didn't get to hear from Dirty Trooper Michael Proctor, disgraced former fired Trooper Michael Proctor? We didn't get to hear from Brian Higgins. There was a lot of high hopes for also the dog bite expert, Garrett Wing. We thought we were going to hear from him, but it looks like they're going to be wrapping up the defense with their witnesses. From my understanding, the prosecution has 2 or 3, I believe they said 3 rebuttal witnesses.
They're going to bring in the lab analyst who swabbed for the DNA for the dog testing. They're going to bring the person who did the dog DNA testing from California, and then they're going to bring Dr. Welcher.
They're bringing Dr. Welcher back in.
Yes.
Wow. Interesting. Yeah. Officer Dubecki, what do you got up there, Ed? This is your.
What does she say? She wants the bag boys.
They ask, we give it to them. You ready?
This episode of Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace brought to you by Stop and Shop.
The Bag Boys. Chuck Luck says, I'm disappointed at no ex-trooper, disgraced, former fired trooper, Michael Proctor, the lead investigator. Yeah, I mean.
At this point, they don't need him. At this point, it doesn't do their case any good. They have nailed home that this was not a vehicle accident, that those injuries to his arm did not come. The injuries to his head did not come from being hit by a vehicle, okay? You know, they have a debris field of plastic taillight parts that is not properly documented, so nobody knows the extent of the debris field. All right. And the debris, and I can tell you right now, based upon these tests that were done, it's not consistent with the several tests done by the ARCCA people, the crash daddies. In addition, you know, you have guys like Be in Trouble who did theirs. And you could see that it doesn't get thrown up on, you know, from the street up onto the yard, all over the yard.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Most of the taillights were on the street.
Agreed. And we're not even sure how those taillights got there because of the dirty, filthy people involved in.
Yeah, it didn't get there from a crash. It got there by human means.
Yeah, and it goes for the same thing with Karen Reed's vehicle in the Sallyport at the Canton Police Department. That as well, I'm convinced wholeheartedly, hands down, that Brian Higgins and the former chief of police had everything to do with what was put on that vehicle that was there. Kristen created this trailer. I thought it was really good. I want to play it again. This was the trailer for tonight's show. If you saw it playing while you were waiting for us to go live. Put a 1 in the chat if you saw it. If you didn't see it, put a 2. We're about to watch it. It's only 3 minutes long, but this was Kristen. She put this thing together in about 30 minutes for me at my request. While I was driving home, I sent her a voice note and I said, Kristen, make a trailer for tonight. I think everybody will be interested in this trailer. Press a 1 if you listened or watched it while we were waiting to go live. Press a 2 if you didn't. Let's let it play. I think she did a great job with this. Thank you, Kristen.
Consider the scene itself did you consider the scene itself where there may have been a debris field?
I know there were photographs of various pieces of plastic around the area where the body was found.
And do you remember where those pieces were found?
Somewhat, yes.
Did you have an opportunity to consider other evidence like a shoe in the area near where Mr. O'Keefe was found?
I know one shoe was on his foot at the hospital, the other was at the scene.
Do you know if his hat stayed with him after he landed on the ground?
The hat was in the area where his body was found.
Did you take a look at his pants, the back of his pants?
I looked at that, yes.
What did you see when you saw the back of his pants?
Well, because he had bled from the back of his injury and he was on a hospital gurney, some of that blood came down, so some of the blood was on the back of his pants.
Did you see anything else other than blood on the back of his pants?
I don't remember if I saw anything else.
Did you look, when you were doing your differential diagnosis, did you look at any evidence other than physical evidence? Did you look at any data evidence?
I don't know what you mean, data.
Like data you'd find on a cell phone?
No.
Did you look at any of the data evidence from the defendant's Lexus?
No, other than looking at the contours of the back to see if it had impacted Mr. O'Keefe.
When you were doing differential diagnosis, did you look at any information that would tell you what the speed of that impact may have been or allegedly was?
Well, it didn't hit him, so it doesn't matter.
So you didn't.
What was that? That's gotta hurt. What movie is that from?
That's right. I play it again.
It doesn't matter.
So you didn't care to know anything about the car, the data in the car, because you had already formed your opinion?
It did not hit him, so it was not relevant to my opinion. By looking at the body, I could tell that there was no evidence of impact with a vehicle. So whether the vehicle was going slow or fast is not relevant.
And so you didn't try to get any information about the speed of the vehicle? It was totally irrelevant to you? Correct. You said that when Mr. O'Keefe first incurred his injury, you think that he was unconscious?
Yes, I think that the severity of the impact made him immediately unconscious.
So if hypothetically Mr. O'Keefe incurred his injury sometime around 12:32, is it your opinion that he never moved again until he was moved physically by somebody else?
Well, I don't know the exact time that he got the injury on the back of the head, but after that time, he could not carry out any purposeful activity.
And so when you look at the pathology, the autopsy of his brain, you're looking at a subarachnoid hemorrhage, you're looking at a subdural hemorrhage, and
See,
he's a classic blunt trauma.
Say again?
Why was he allowed to testify to all these pathological things that he has no experience in? Because he's not a pathologist. He's a neurosurgeon. He deals with live patients, okay? Yet she, the pathologist, was having her testimony hindered.
And that's why I thought it was brilliant that Kristen, in 30 minutes, put this thing together. And she had this is how close she's paying attention to this case.
Oh, and there's one more thing before we move on with this. I can't stand when Brennan tries to attack the witness when he doesn't like their answers, and they stop becoming a medical expert and they become advocates. He does that, he makes those comments, that he should be yelled at by the judge, but of course, Lifeguard Bev is not going to yell at him.
Well, Hank Brennan earned these sound bites that we're going to play right now.
You dick!
Indeed.
Pardon my French, but you're an asshole.
So those are standard for Hank Brennan for the duration of his life, for that matter. What, Ed?
I really wish there was a video of Dr. Lapasada walking up to Hank, and Hank sticking his hand out after her testimony to shake her hand, and she just kicks him right in the balls and walks away. I really wish I could have seen something like that. I know
Carry out any purposeful activity.
And so when you look at the pathology, the autopsy of his brain, you're looking at a subarachnoid hemorrhage. You're looking at a subdural hemorrhage. And
it's
he's
a
a classic blunt trauma laceration.
Caused by Mr. O'Keefe falling backwards on the ground.
My opinion is that that's what caused his whole injury.
So you have doubts about the manner of death of Mr. O'Keefe, and you consider those doubts reasonable? You were not able to reach a determination as to the manner of death of Mr. O'Keefe, correct?
Correct.
And manner of death, as you've testified, includes the circumstances.
So that was Dr. Scordy Bello, and that was great. That's how the trailer ends right there, because we were only allowed 3 minutes on the trailer. But Kristen, I'm going to ask her to expand on that and then put together some additional stuff. Maybe we can find a meme of Dr. Lapasada kneeing Hank Brennan in the balls. Maybe we could go to Microdots and get him to do something for us.
Also, there was a part in the testimony where she was talking about the fractures to the skull. And she was talking about the energies required for the fractures. And she was saying to medium to large amount of force necessary to create these fractures. And, you know, Hank kept pressing her on that. And it right away, it reminded me of a joke. You know, so people just, you know, alert, alert, alert. Okay, trigger alert. So the story goes that a young police officer was on patrol, and he witnessed, unbeknownst to him, a lawyer driving his vehicle through a stop sign. The lawyer did not stop. He did one of those California rolling stops, looked, didn't see anybody, and just, you know, proceeded through the stop sign without coming to a full stop. So the officer pulls the lawyer over. So the lawyer, being a lawyer, thinks that he's going to play with this officer, and you know, and the officer is saying, "Hey, license, registration, and insurance." And the lawyer said, "Well, why did you stop me, sir?" He said, "Well, sir, because you didn't come to a full and complete stop at the stop sign. You rolled through the intersection without coming to a full stop." And he said, "Well, if you can show me the difference between what I did and coming to a full stop, I'll give you my license, registration, insurance, and then you can issue me the motor vehicle violation." So he said, "Sure, sir, step out of the car." So they said, guys, the lawyer was like, "Why do I have to step out of the car?" He goes, "So that I can show you the difference between rolling through a stop sign and coming to a complete stop." So he gets out of the car and he says, "Okay, let's step over here in front of the car so we don't get hit by oncoming traffic." And as soon as he gets over there, he takes out his nightstick and proceeds to beat the lawyer to the ground with his nightstick. Now, as he's beating the lawyer to the ground with his nightstick, he then says to him as he's beating him, "Do you want me to stop now or roll through?"
Oh my God. And that's not a true story, is it, Ed?
No, it's not a true story. It's a joke.
Well, people in the chat, we got to make sure we clarify that. Here's a little clip of, thank you for that story. That's a good one. Testimony winding down in the Karen Reed murder trial, but this is Hank Brennan attacking the good doctor and going after her credibility. Let's take a listen to this, and then we'll wrap it up.
Excuse me.
No, I'm not going to.
So,
That's not what I said.
resignation.
That's not what I said. That is
Excuse me.
No, I'm not going to.
So,
Tension in the courtroom over what Dr. Elizabeth Lapasada could say about victim John O'Keefe.
Patterned injury that you see on Mr. O'Keefe's right arm is consistent with an animal bite or claw marks.
Yes, it is. Very much.
Lapasada said the Boston police officer could have died within 20 minutes from his head injuries.
I thought this was a brilliant kind of diagram to show the jury, because this is where she was talking about the hypothermia, right?
Well, she was talking about the chest compression device and how it can create these injuries to these other internal organs that could mimic some of the signs for hypothermia.
Right here is the signs, but this was all in the same conversation as it pertained to hypothermia and additional injuries to John O'Keefe's body. What do we got up on the screen there, Ed?
This is, I don't know if El LeBlanc. I do know a Lori LeBlanc. I'm not sure it's the same person with $200 here. Thank you so much. That's quite generous. Love Dr. L. She never backed down. Loved her correcting Hank's terminology. Yes, that was classic. Yeah, especially when, oh my God, I nearly spit my drink out when he couldn't say, when he couldn't say the Scottish town, which was the genesis for the medical finding.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
She corrected him. It was bad. It was really bad.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh.
Did
everybody witness Glasgow? Yeah. Oh my God. He couldn't say it. He couldn't say it.
The back of his head hit something that had a fine granular pattern to it.
Karen Reed is accused of backing into her boyfriend with her SUV and leaving him to die. Lapasada, a defense witness, disagrees.
Well, it didn't hit him, so it doesn't matter.
She also claims O'Keefe did not die of hypothermia. The doctor who performed O'Keefe's autopsy says he did. On cross-examination, prosecutors tried to discredit Lapasada, focusing on her time as Rhode Island's chief medical examiner. She handled the
This is a much younger Dr. Lapasada, right? Look at that.
aftermath of the station nightclub fire.
And you received criticism because you were repeatedly requested by emergency responders and police officials to come to the scene, and you refused?
That's incorrect. First of all, nobody called me to come to the scene, and medical examiners are not first responders. My investigator went right to the scene.
She resigned in 2005.
She was referring to the Barbara Butcher equivalent, the legal medical death investigator, right?
Right. Yes. You typically, the medical examiners, the pathologists do not go to the scene. They send their medical legal death investigators to the scene to conduct the on-scene death investigations.
Yeah, Hank thought he was slick, but she put him in his place.
She's the chief medical examiner, and she knows she's got 100 victims coming into her morgue. So she's got to go to the morgue and make arrangements, make sure the refrigerators are working, and make sure everything is all staffed and ready to go to receive these 100 bodies.
Were repeatedly requested by emergency responders and police officials to come to the scene, and you refused?
That's incorrect. First of all, nobody called me to come to the scene, and medical examiners are not first responders. My investigator went right to the scene.
She resigned in 2005 after an audit revealed hundreds of incomplete autopsy reports.
So you inevitably did resign in 2005.
Yes, because my budget was going to be cut, and I knew that if I had to get rid of a medical examiner, we couldn't do a good job for the state.
Meanwhile, Dr. Andrew Rentschler from the crash reconstruction firm ARCCA began his testimony.
Our last witness.
And that expert will have to come back tomorrow.
It'll be a full day tomorrow between back and forth with the direct and cross. I think we'll have a lot more information. As you said, I think that the defense is going to come back tomorrow morning, and there could be bombshells. And what you alluded to, if that comes to fruition with Hank, we'll have to go live with that.
Well, folks, just understand, I just got this really bad gut feeling that Brennan is up to something. And, this is all speculation on my part, but I don't trust this guy as far as I can throw him. And trust me, I can throw him pretty far. He is pond scum. He is slime. Okay. And so nothing that he does surprises me anymore. There's no line he won't cross. There's no insult he won't give. Like I said the other day, his moral compass is so fucked up that the needle on that compass spins so fast he uses it as a personal fan to cool himself off.
Ed, did you just say the F word?
I did drop an F-bomb. Yes, I'm
Oh
sorry.
my goodness. Hey, I wanted to share with our audience. This is from the ARCCA website. You know, these guys were hired originally when the FBI were doing their investigation. So he actually has a downloadable CV that is legitimate. He's a PhD. This guy's got an impressive resume. And I like he also corrected Alan Jackson today as he was talking about his bioengineering. And what was it that he mispronounced? Something with the mechanics?
Biomechanics, right.
Yeah.
He asked him if it's biomechanics or
Mechanical.
No, yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and he corrected him.
Yeah, he corrected him.
But yeah, so this is the website. I'll link it in the description. You can read up about him. You can download his CV. Guy's impressive.
Biomechanist. Hey,
go ahead, Ed. What?
No, I was just saying, like, we have a lot of Scottish folks here in our chat, and I was saying I have family over in Glasgow.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yes,
Wow.
I was there in 2009. I had a great time visiting the whole all of Scotland. It was great.
Wow, that's very cool. Let's get to the super chats. Ed, maybe sometime we could do a members only, and we could talk about some of your, family and some of the history behind the Wallace clan. That would be interesting. I think a lot of people would love to hear it. Josie,
Yeah, absolutely.
Josie, thank you for becoming a YouTube member. I want to get to these quickly. Kimberly Gutierrez, member for 5 months. Dr. Lapasada is my favorite witness. Yeah, I think. Look, if we did a poll and we asked who the top witness is, she would be pretty high up on that poll. I really can't think of any other witnesses that were so composed. Dr. Wolf was very composed, but she put just this spicy flair to it with her responses, with the time checks, with the putting him in check with the brain reference. So she was good. Matt, thank you for the $5. Ed's checking something very important right now.
Okay.
So what do you got, Ed?
I'm going to bring up my Scottish heritage. So we are members of Clan Wallace, and so we went over to Scotland, as I said, in 2009, the whole family, and
you climbed up.
We had a personal tour of the Wallace Monument in Stirling, and so here's the family with William's sword at the top of the monument. My mom couldn't make it up the spiral staircase, so she stayed at the bottom.
Wow.
But let's see.
I think I remember you showing that at one time. There it is. Yeah. Oh, that right there. It's in. Okay.
Hold on. Yeah. Anyhow.
Interesting. Thank you for sharing that. I'm sure.
I'll give you a personal story too about that sword. That sword has only left Scotland 2 times that I'm aware of, when William Wallace was captured and taken to London for his execution. And then after 9/11, the sword was brought to New York City for Tartan Day, April 2002. And it was the first Tartan Day parade after the 9/11 attack. And so Tartan Day is when all the Celtic people here in America have this, we have this huge parade that goes up Fifth Avenue into Central Park, and all the clans are represented, all the Celtic people. And we tried to break the world's bagpipe record that year to, so we had bagpipers from all over the world, from Asia, from Hong Kong, from all the UK former colonies all over the world, from the Middle East, from Africa, so forth and so on. And the the parade was led by the Grand Marshal, who was Sean Connery, and he was allowed to hold William Wallace's sword, which was on loan at the Smithsonian, and march the parade up into Central Park to have the bagpipe festival in the park.
Wow. Interesting. That's now, when was that? How many years ago was that?
2002.
2002. Wow. Going back. Interesting history. Interesting history. Let's get back to these super chats, Ed, as we want to just get through these, because Aunt BB2 is a member for 33 months, and she said they didn't call Dr. Stonebridge the brain doctor either. Yeah, no, they sure didn't. Ida, thank you for the $5. She said Dr. L probably told Hanky before that she won't do unethical stuff. Yeah, she's making the reference to when he tried to use her for a different proceeding that he was involved in. The Fixer is back. Hello, The Fixer. Sends in 5 and says, Mrs. O'Keefe looks so sad during Lapasada's testimony. She has to know now and doesn't want to. Justice for John O'Keefe. Yeah, I did notice that. And it wasn't just today. I noticed it yesterday and in several others. When Dr. Scortibello was testifying, I know she left the courtroom, but that day was bad. There was numerous days where I saw her, and my heart breaks for this family. My heart breaks for the mom and dad and the brothers and everybody that's left behind. His friends. He was a very popular guy, and he was well liked by all means. What we're hearing, he was well liked by everybody. So, including his neighbors and people in the neighborhood. So, very sad. Thank you for that, The Fixer. We appreciate you. Schmitty Smacks is throwing a purse at us again. She says, you both are so relatively calm. I get that it's out of your hands, but for real, how do you do it?
Drugs.
Every drugs. No, look, we lived and worked in this field for many decades, a long time, and we continue to talk about it and continue to teach. This is what we did for such a long time, so it comes as second nature to us. And I don't know about you, Ed, but we have that release when we make jokes, not about the cases, but when we joke around it, when we try to get laughs out of you guys. It's our way of coping with this stuff. So when we have
joking.
Ed, every time you put that bag on your head, I think about, hair number 32 is out of place. So better fix that.
Don't hate the player, hate the game.
Shut it, Wallace. Shut it.
Say good night to the bad guy.
That's right, bad guy. You're the bad guy.
Eileen, thank you for the 2. Ed, what could the surface be? I don't know at what point she's referring to here.
I'm thinking, no, she's talking about the surface that created the injury to the back of the skull. I'm thinking they were looking at surfaces inside the house via the real estate photographs that were taken to give virtual tours, and maybe concrete stair inside of the garage. Somebody was suggesting that. That's why they shut down the video of what was inside the garage.
When that PI was on the stand, remember I made reference to it yesterday. Why did they cut that down? CB Kel, thank you for the 5. I absolutely love you guys. Well, we love you and appreciate you. Thank you always for amazing education. You guys influenced me to go back to school for forensic genealogy degree. Wow. We'd like to hear more about it. We'd like to hear more about it. Send us a message on DutyRon.com.
I'm thinking right now of a purple dinosaur singing, I love you.
Oh, Ed.
You love me.
Hold on a second.
Stop breathing down my neck.
My mom always said,
life is like a box of chocolates.
You never know. Yeah.
He's chewing the chocolate. There's probably caramel in there. All right. Mike S. sends in a 5 and says, if Karen Reed's found innocent, is it possible no one would be punished with killing John O'Keefe because the investigation was so bad? Yes. We may. I said this 100 times, and Ed, you agree. We may never get the person or persons involved in the murder of police officer John O'Keefe behind bars because of the shitty investigation that was done. And we saw this in many other high-profile cases, and one of them was in Los Angeles, and it involved a two-letter. I'm not going to get into it, but anyways.
Well, listen, I pray that this is not the case. Remember, there's no statutes of limitation on a homicide, on a murder rather. So, you know, I'm hopeful.
Crap in, crap out, right, Ed?
Right. Yeah, but there's other ways to make a case. You know, you get one of the low-lying fruits to break to the feds and confess, and then they start bringing everybody in.
Yeah, Canton is just too much of rotten apples there. There's too many bad people in there. And there's good people surrounded by these bad people. Tommy Futch, thank you for the 2. Lapasada owned Brennan on cross. Agreed, 100%. Larissa, I think we did this. Yeah, we did. We highlighted that super chat live. Thank you. Rescue Randy's trauma nurse, thank you for the 10. Why did Scorty Bello say there wasn't any x-rays? Can she be charged with perjury? That's something too that I thought in the back of my head. I thought that she said that they didn't take any x-rays. Why weren't these shown in the first persecution? I said that earlier of Karen. Another intentional dirty move, hiding evidence by Hanky. Now, if Dr. Scorty Bello turned over those x-rays to the Commonwealth, it's their job to present the case, not Dr. Scorty Bello. But if she was asked under oath, if she took, if that's the case, Ed, if she was asked, did you take x-rays, and she said no, then that's a problem.
I don't know. Maybe she didn't remember that. Well, first of all, typically the pathologist doesn't take the x-rays. There's an x-ray technician. That's their job. But maybe she forgot. Maybe she didn't remember. I don't know. I don't know that. I got to review her testimony to see if, in fact, she was asked this question about x-rays.
If she was, I think that I don't think the defense will bring that up. Obviously, it's not their job to bring that up, but the prosecution used her as their witness. And if she said that, then the defense may bring it up and say, hey, wait a minute. What the fuck is this?
Well, yeah, she was the prosecution's witness.
Yeah. Thank you, Rescue.
They got some splaining to do, Lucy.
Oh my God. Marcin K. She sends in a 5, he or she, and then it says that makes total sense that they cook it under UV for 6 days. All fresh DNA was degraded, but not old pig DNA from pig ears. That was already cured.
Yeah, because that was like what's the word I'm looking for? Jerky.
Yeah, beef jerky. Ida wants to know what you said, the prosecutorial mistrial.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I just got a bad feeling that something is going to come down from Hank, some kind of motion, like he did, because he seemed very subdued after he got his, what's kicked in by Dr. Laposata.
Yeah, Vesper, thank you for the 5. Appreciate it. Yes.
His huevos got kicked in.
Rhino Girl sends in 50 from United Arab Emirates. We appreciate you. And we thought Lally was bad first trial. When Hanky realizes he's not able to get to the doctor, he tried to discredit her and misrepresented her work from 25 years ago. Absolutely. Yeah. YouTube user, thank you for becoming a new member. Neil, thank you for the 2. Can you go deeper into Brennan's mistrial requests?
No, we didn't say listen, everybody, listen to what I'm saying. All right. I didn't say he's going to make one. I'm getting a feeling that something is percolating in the background with Brennan. And it wouldn't surprise me if there is some bombshell drop tomorrow where the prosecution asks for a mistrial.
You were clear about it, Ed. I know. Thank you for clarifying it. But some people just want to hear what they want to hear, and it is what it is. Or some people might miss not listening intently and just say, "Ooh, Beamer 650, thank you for being a member for 16 months. There's no other channel that goes into such depth. Appreciate you. I know I just got an email from your daughter, and I'm sending prayers your way. She's going through some health issues. I don't know if she wants me to talk about it here, but sending prayers for you, Beamer 650, a moderator, a great friend, and a channel member. Thank you, Beamer. And I will call tomorrow. I'm actually going to call you tomorrow. Michelle, thank you for becoming a YouTube member. Much appreciated. Mary, thank you for becoming a new member. John George, thanks for the 5. He died from the head injury, yet was found face down. Why has that not been talked about in court? No injuries to the face. A lot hasn't been talked about in court. I'm not surprised. There's nothing that's copacetic about this. Nothing.
Well, he does have that blunt force trauma injury under the eye. And there was a piece of glass that was allegedly removed from his nose. He was found face down per the testimony of the ladies, and they rolled him over to conduct CPR. Okay. That already came out. So, you know, if that, as they said, what are your options here? That somebody put him there,
right,
face down, because he would have been incapacitated when he got the injury to the back of his head and wouldn't have been able to do anything on his own.
Ed, could you read out the next couple? I got to go and do something.
Chapikino. What? There.
This is the bottom one. I'm going to the very last one.
Charicity. No Scotabello didn't. It was Welcher who said there wasn't. Okay. Larissa Harris. Watch Ali McCabe's testimony, trial 1. Yes, where she said Colin wasn't in the house the time that John was there. That's right. I remember that. Okay. My sticky on your face. Thanks for the $2. I want my $2. Email. Got pic of Lapasada kicking Brennan's nuts. Okay. Somebody made a meme. I'd like to see it. Fry Pilot's wife. Okay. Fyra Pilot's wife gifted 20 DutyRon memberships. Thank you so much for that. So you lucky 20 members, thank her, please. Bry Hodley, $4.99. Thanks for the $5. Crazy that Welcher said we couldn't be certain about fractures because there were no x-rays. Again, remember, Welcher, prosecution witness, x-rays, property of the Commonwealth. Okay, and Hank Brennan didn't correct him knowing there were x-rays. Dun, dun, dun. Hal Baker, thanks for the $5. Trophy Wife, thanks for the $5. Lapasada and Dr. Wolf, easy on the eyes and very composed. Indeed, professionals. Thunder Horse, Feds are gifted 5 DutyRon memberships. Thank you, Thunder Horse. Folks who received them, thank Thunder Horse. Hal Baker is back. Hal Baker became a YouTube member. Welcome. Kitty Coo gifted 5 DutyRon members. Thank you for that, Dochene. Okay. Pickle Sweets, $5. Brennan will always look like Slugworth to me. I can't unsee it. Yeah, once you see it, it's stuck, right? TG, $10. Thank you. She's a lot tougher than Hank. Her job requires it. That's right. And I loved what she said, that she's the last doctor these people will ever see. Not surprising that she dunked all over him. Gents, thank you for your work. Invaluable. Thank you. Tina Humphrey, $2. I want my $2. I love the way she stood up to Hank. Yes. And she corrected him every chance she got. Okay. We did this. El LeBlanc, 200. Thank you. Blissfulness, $5. Thank you. No grass in the head wounds. That's right. Lecard's exchange principle. If he would have fallen down on crashed his head on that frozen soil, there would be transfer of grass, soil, and the components of the soil in the wound. No thing there. And they, oh, by the way, they never tested the green material that is allegedly on the jeans, so we don't know if it's grass or not. Okay. Tina Humphrey, $3, super sticker, thank you. TG, $10, thank you. In the end, it is likely Hank will be hated by both sides. Well, he only has himself to blame for that, doesn't he? Farmer Whitehair, $2. Thank you. Could higher ups be swaying Bev state money? I don't know. JM 1960 was a very good year. Anyhow, £5, super sticker. Hello. Okay, Bat Mama, $10. Ed, I too am worried. I've been hearing several times today from other YouTubes. Yeah, I hear you. I mean, I got a really bad feeling. I don't know what's going on. J Jax 61, $10. On what grounds would he ask for a mistrial at Ed's Socks, aka Franny? So I guess that question was to Franny, but I can't think of anything. But nothing surprises me with what this guy says and does, because a lot of what he says to the court is a lie.
Let's listen to the great doctor. Thank you, Ed. I'm back. Let's listen to the great doctor tell the court under oath that is bullshit.
Go. I would have gone if I needed to. I had my investigator there. It was just bullshit. No, it was.
Listen to that all night. It was just bullshit.
Looked up all the phone records and provided it to the newspapers and showed that nobody called me to go. I would have gone if I needed to. I had my investigator there. It was just bullshit. No, it was.
Love how you did that. All right,
You just love that, don't you?
I really can't get it. I can't get enough of that. I love it. So again, we're going to be on it day 31 tomorrow. Who knows if the end of this week the jury will get the case, but that's what they're shooting for. I don't anticipate that. I think it won't happen until after Father's Day, probably Monday. They'll get the case, and then we'll have deliberations. It shouldn't take them long, but remember what happened in the first trial. It took a little while, and it was a lot back and forth. Ed, you have something to say? It sounded like you were ready to say something there.
No, I mean, but it wasn't just that statement she made. She brought the receipts, because when those allegations surfaced against her, she showed the media all the phone records.
Right.
There was no phone calls to her asking her to come to the scene. It was just political bullshit.
And she said it. And she said it. So she mumbled it under her breath, and then she outright said it. And it is what it is.
These positions, whether it's the chief medical examiner for Rhode Island or the chief medical examiner for the city of New York, these are appointed positions. These are not elected officials. They're appointed, in her case, the governor, in the city's case, the mayor. Okay. So they serve at the will of the political powers that be at the time of their appointment. And, they're not guaranteed a job if a new elected official gets brought in. They, people, new mayors come in, they replace a lot of these people.
Yeah.
Same thing with the governor.
Agreed. Ed, do you know at what point it was that they showed? Oh, I got it. Never mind. So this is the x-rays. I want to just.
It shows the
You see that's from the shoulder.
You see some of the ribs there. You see the.
Why is it that we're on trial, day 30, trial number 2, and this is the first time we're seeing the medical examiner took full sets of x-rays of police officer John O'Keefe? I'm baffled by this.
Again, you keep at the medical examiner's office. Somebody in the office took it. There should be a name. There should be a name of the x-ray technician on the x-ray and the date and time. So that should be there.
This document.
Yes, I do.
How do you recognize it?
I recognize it by the medical examiner identification of Mr. O'Keefe, and I recognize.
Did anybody see how Bev took a really big? She inhaled and exhaled like, oh my God, here we go. Got to go back to that. Look at, she was like, ooh.
Do you recognize this document?
Look, watch her.
Yes, I do.
How do you recognize it?
I recognize it by the medical examiner identification of Mr. O'Keefe.
Was it?
And I recognize the x-ray of the right hand, the right wrist, the right femur, and I can also tell by the R designation here that that's the right side of the body.
Is this what you reviewed in coming to your opinions and conclusions concerning injuries to his right hand?
Yes.
Thank you.
So
She
these
looked
are
like she was going to say something, didn't it?
exhibit in A, B, and C.
A, B, and C, yes, Your Honor.
She's not happy.
HHH is now 290.
Still want to know who had these and how are they just being used now?
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
It's amazing.
Originally, they weren't going to let her testify to these x-rays. There was a whole big sidebar about this, right? Because they were only going to let, Crash Daddy number 2 talk about these x-rays.
Sure.
Do you recognize this document?
Yes, this is a x-ray of the body of Mr. O'Keefe from the medical examiner's office. The R indicates the right side, and we see here the 2 bones of the arm. There's no injury to them. We see the pelvis bone. There's no injury to that bone. They're perfectly normal, and there's no abnormal soft tissue swelling. It's a normal right arm.
So if his arm, as the Commonwealth is letting on for everyone to believe, was hit by that 6,000 or 7,000 pound Lexus SUV at 24 miles an hour, there's going to be no breaks in the arm. Crazy.
Thank you. I mean, it was about the next order.
That may obviate the need to put it up, right?
It could.
I see this comment here. I just want to hide it. Susan 03. Okay. Yes, okay. If the doctor said this, that she would not be technically wrong.
She doesn't take them. An X-ray tech does.
She doesn't take the X-rays.
But she could have said in that same statement, if in fact that's true, what Susan is saying, she could have said, no, I did not take them, but our office X-ray technician, our X-ray department, it's part of protocol on all of the autopsies.
It was the prosecution's witness, right? At this point, it really doesn't matter, but I don't think the defense would call the good doctor back to clarify this. If anybody should be clarifying it, it should be the prosecution.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I am going to go, because I have them all saved in folders. I'm going to go back to Dr. Scordi-Bella's testimony. It was quite extensive. And take a peek and see what we come up with. Maybe I'll put Kristen on that. Might even be easier for her to just go back and scan through it. But either way, it's a form, an additional form of shadiness by the prosecution. Hank is just full of, his bag of tricks is pretty deep. So he does a lot of shady shit. And this is added on to the pile, ladies and gentlemen. This has been an hour and 30 minutes of analysis with Ed Wallace and DutyRon. We want to ask you to just take a minute to give this video a thumbs up real quick while you're here. We'd appreciate that.
Put that DNA on the thumbs up.
DNA. Ed likes to say, put the DNA on the thumbs up. Share it, subscribe, like, comment. A great way to continue the conversation is to leave us a message down below in the comment section. Thank you to everyone who's keeping us caffeinated by buying cups of coffee, supporting us on Patreon. All of the links are in the description. Thank you to people for becoming channel members. We greatly appreciate it. The email is dutyron.com. That's where you send in anything that you have, any correspondence, dutyron.com. It's your one-stop shop for all things DutyRon and Ed Wallace. So if you have questions, there's a form that you fill out to ask your questions or send an email to us. Also, Ed Wallace's crime scene book is linked in the description and linked on our website, dutyron.com. If you want to purchase it, you can go on over there and check it on out. We've linked it in the description.
Amazon, their Crime Scene Investigations, 4th edition. Then there's Practical Crime Scene Investigations for Hot Zones. And then there is crime scene management, a path forward. So
we got it all. We got it all there. Every one of your books are linked in the DutyRon.com. You guys can go over there and click. It'll send you right over to Amazon where you can purchase the book. All right. On behalf of Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace, we want to give you, wish you guys a good evening. We'll be back at it again tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel, 9 p.m. Eastern. We'll be covering day 31 in its entirety, and we'll have a lot to talk about. Ed, any final thoughts?
Well, you know, since you're quoting like old 60s television shows, I just like, what did I just do?
I didn't look. I was looking away because
okay, ready?
A lot of things here.
That's
the dating game.
There you go.
Ed's always testing me. He's got to always test me.
All right, folks. You know, I always end it with thank you for being here. Thank you for spending your time with us. I know your time is valuable. I know you can get your true crime fix anywhere you like on the internet. And it's an honor for you to share it with us. We really appreciate you, respect you, and thank you. Thanks for spreading the word about us. Thanks for helping us break that milestone of 500,000 subscribers. Let's keep the family growing and be safe. Be prepared and always watch your six. Catch you on the next one.
Thank you, Ed. And always on the end of our live streams, we like to acknowledge the victim here, Police Officer John O'Keefe. May he continue to rest in peace and his family find peace in his passing. So here is a video that Kristen put together for us. Memory of Police Officer John O'Keefe.
True blue heart, a badge of grace, no shadow you wouldn't face. When fate struck hard and grief cut deep, you chose to stand, not sit and weep. You opened wide your humble door, where children found a home once more. There's nothing you wouldn't do to lift the world up that leaned on you. Every heartbeat in this town now marches toward what's right. Justice may lose its footing, yet truth commands the night. Those who shield their secrets, hiding wrongs behind their lies, will meet the light you carried blazing bright across their skies.
His casket as it was carried into a church in Braintree. The 46-year-old was well respected among his peers, and he raised his niece and nephew when his sister and her husband died.